soldiers were shot dead today at an IRA funeral in Belfast. They were dragged out of their car, beaten and then shot. The IRA have said they did it. It happened at the funeral of Kevin Brady, one of the 3 men killed at Milltown Cemetery on Wednesday. As the funeral cortege left St Agnes Church in Andersonstown Road, a car drove towards the mourners at high speed. As it stopped and tried to reverse, it was surrounded by an angry crowd. The 2 men were dragged to a park, beaten and shot. Their bodies were found on waste ground nearby. 3 people are helping police with their inquiries. The RUC has described the incident as an obscenity committed by depraved and perverted people. Mrs. Thatcher said the killings were an act of appalling savagery, adding, "There seem to be no depths to which these people will not sink." The Northern Ireland Secretary, Tom King, has called for a full and urgent report. He said people who were capable of such barbarous and animal savagery had no place in any civilized society. He promised that neither the government nor the security forces would rest until the perpetrators of this unspeakable act were brought to justice. The Labour leader, Neil Kinnock, said tonight, "This must be the depth of tragedy."
With no police or army in sight, the funeral cortege left the church where Requiem Mass had been said on its way to Milltown Cemetery. There, IRA man Kevin Brady, who was killed on Wednesday, was due to be buried. A silver car drove quickly towards the procession. Taxis at the head of the cortege moved towards it, and within seconds it was surrounded by mourners who began to shout and try and get inside at the 2 occupants. There seemed to be early attempts to calm the situation. Then the mob were clearly frightened by something. One of the soldiers in the car had a gun. Eventually, the car's windows were put in and attempts were made to drag the 2 soldiers through them. One man started to beat the roof and windscreen with a starting handle, and then there was a shot. Scattered only briefly by the gunfire, the mourners got the 2 soldiers, who the army said were travelling between 2 military locations and had nothing to do with the funeral, out of the car. They were taken to a nearby park and beaten. The car the soldiers had been driving was taken from the scene and set on fire. It was burnt out before the brigade arrived. The bodies of the soldiers were found in an alley. The IRA later claimed that they'd executed an SAS unit who'd attacked the funeral cortege. The army, who denied that the men were either undercover or SAS, said the soldiers had no reason to be in the area of the funeral. They could only speculate about the reason for them being there.
And a few minutes ago, an army spokesman repeated that the 2 soldiers had not been authorized to be in the area where the funeral was taking place. The statement stressed they were not taking part in any undercover operation. The 2 men had been returning to Lisbon from a police station in West Belfast, where they'd been doing routine maintenance work. The spokesman said the soldiers were in a civilian car with no communications equipment. Ireland Secretary Tom King is tonight in Belfast, hearing first-hand reports on the murders of 2 soldiers by the IRA yesterday. Mr. King is also seeing a video film taken from a helicopter which shows how the 2 officers were beaten by a mob before being shot on nearby waste ground. Today, the army paid tribute to the men, Corporal Derek Wood and Corporal David Howes. A senior officer from their regiment, the Royal Corps of Signals, praised their courage. And tonight, Corporal Howes' father said he was very proud of the way his son had behaved and the self-control that he showed.
Corporal Derek Wood, who was driving the car, came from Carshalton in Surrey. He was 24 and unmarried and had been based in Northern Ireland for 4 years. His passenger, Corporal David Howes, came from Northampton. He was 23 and also single. He had only arrived in the province a week ago.
I'm very glad that further carnage did not take place and that they showed restraint. I think we should be very grateful that they did not use their weapons to perhaps more devastating effect than they could have done. And I think that shows bravery on their behalf, and I'm very, very proud of them for that.
A Catholic priest was one who tried to prevent the shooting of the 2 army corporals.
One of the local women came along with a coat and put it over the head of one of the soldiers and said he was somebody's son. Lord have mercy on him. that summed up the situation for me.
The soldiers were first attacked outside St Agnes's Church. Today, the congregation was told to acknowledge the shame and guilt they felt. No one could back off from the truth of the events. The priest asked what the Catholic community had in its midst.
We had foul and bloody murders committed in our parish yesterday. Our parish is seen as dripping in the blood of the murdered.
Sinn Féin maintains the people who killed the soldiers thought a second IRA funeral was being attacked. But the Catholic Church in West Belfast says hatred, fear and rage can never excuse the foul murders.
Today's funeral was the second within a week where the security forces have kept a low profile, but where there's been violence, as John Thorne reports.
The army explanation that the two soldiers were routinely changing locations raises questions about the tactics of the security forces in West Belfast. The army has rejected the Sinn Féin allegation that they were both SAS men, and it does seem highly unlikely that the SAS would have mounted a surveillance operation, leaving the soldiers so exposed to a mob without support readily available. But it is feasible that there was some sort of intelligence gathering operation around today's funeral. The police have insisted that their new discreet policing of Republican funerals has not created a no-go area in West Belfast. Tonight, after calling for the resignation of Mr. King and the Chief Constable of the RUC, the Reverend Ian Paisley demanded a new policy towards IRA funerals.
Those funerals that are going to be governed and patrolled and policed with